Hi everybody, welcome back to engVid.com. I'm Adam. Today's video is about the prepositions under, below, beneath, and underneath. Now I know that some people have a problem distinguishing or knowing which one to use in what context. So we're going to look at all of them and see which situations call for which prepositions and which situations you can mix them up. Because in many cases you can use under or beneath, for example, or under or below. So some situations you can mix them, other situations you can't. So let's start with under. When do I use under? When we talk about a lower level or a lower layer, in terms of space, so spatial is the adjective of space. So when we're comparing space, one is lower than the other, okay? But, so the ball rolled under the car. Generally, when we have some sort of movement, we're going to use probably under, although we can sometimes say the ball rolled beneath the car. We're going to look at the difference between under and beneath after. So in this case, you can use under, you can use other ones. But in a situation, now when I say situation or condition, it's usually about people, okay? So when somebody is feeling a particular thing or is in a particular condition or state of mind, we're going to use under. So he's under a lot of pressure. Means it's the weight of the condition is making him down or is heavy on top of him. Okay? So he's under a lot of pressure. Numbers. When we talk about age or quantity, we're going to use under, not the other prepositions. This bar is popular among the under 40 crowd. Basically, under means less than or fewer than, right? When we're talking about numbers. And in terms of quantity, under 20 people actually showed up to the party. It means less than, fewer than 20 people showed up. We can also use under as a prefix. It means we can add it to other words, We can use it to other words, not underwear. I have underwear on my mind. Other words, and basically make them less, weakened or less than, or other situations. So underweight. If someone is underweight, they are less than the healthy weight, right? So this is the what you should be. And if you're underweight, you're pretty thin, right? You should eat more. If you underestimate, so you notice I can use it with a noun or with a verb or adjectives. I'll give you other examples after. If you underestimate something or someone, means you don't give them enough credit. You don't appreciate them or it at the place where it should be. So again, not enough. Under can also mean not enough. Now, let's look at below. So we looked about lower level, etc. When we use below, we're still talking about relation of two things. One is lower than the other, but it's important to remember that usually it's on the same plane. Now, on the same plane means the same spot in space. So if something is here and something is here, we don't say this is below that. We can say it's under this in terms of the rankings, okay, but we don't say it's below. So the word below is written below the word under. Because why? We're on the same plane. We're looking at the whiteboard. It's the same space, and I have the same line. So this is below that. Okay? It's not under it. It's below it in terms of the plane. We also can use below when we look at a reference point in relation to a reference point. Now, what do I mean by a reference point? Here's the point where things get compared to. For example, average. Average is a reference point. It is not the highest. It is not the lowest. It is a combination of all the things on the spectrum or whatever you're comparing. And we take the average spot, which is technically between highest and lowest. So if we're talking about cars, and I'm looking at buying a new car, and I'm looking at all the different makers, like Mercedes, I'm looking at Toyota, whatever. I look at all the prices, I add them all up, divided by the number of cars, and that's the average price of a new car. So now, do I want to spend somewhere below average or somewhere above average? So we use below with the reference point. More than this point, less than. Below standards. So every company or every product has a certain standard. It must be at least this good. If it is below standard, means it's not very good. It needs to be fixed or replaced or just thrown out, okay? Now, going back to the same plane, I forgot to mention, the apartment below. So if I'm talking about my neighbor below, why? Because we're on the same plane in the building, right? We're in the same line, and he is below me. There's a space between us, okay? Okay. Sometimes, sorry, I just will say, you can say the people in the apartment underneath, but we're going to talk about underneath in a second. Let's talk about beneath first. In many cases, beneath and under can be mixed, are interchangeable. You can use either one. Beneath is just considered more formal than under. It's a little bit prettier, it's a little bit more sophisticated. They mean the same thing. But generally speaking, when we're talking about something is a lower level, but it is touching, then we're going to use beneath. If there's a certain touch, or if we're talking about the surface and something is under that surface, we're going to use beneath. So, beneath the sea. Beneath this, the wire for this microphone is beneath my shirt. It's also under my shirt. We can use either way. But generally, if it's under a surface or if it's touching, we use beneath. Something that is masked. Like we're talking about, again, people. They have emotions, their feelings. They're hiding them. And what they have in the front for people to see is like a mask. Okay? That's why I said mask. So when we're talking about what's behind the mask, we generally use beneath. There's a sad person beneath that happy face. Sometimes you can use behind, sometimes you can use beneath because it's really under the skin, beneath the skin, beneath the surface, okay? And when we're talking about level in terms of status, so I am a politician and somebody accuses me of doing something, and I think that is such a crazy accusation, I'm not even going to answer. That's beneath me. It's beneath my social level. If I go beneath my level, that means I'm coming to that person's level, which is really bad. So if something is beneath me, it is beneath my social level. If something is beneath contempt or beneath my dignity or beneath dignity, it means it is not worth my time. Not only to answer it or to even think about it. I'm not even going to get angry at the accusation because that would make me as guilty as the person who made the accusation. So this is a very common use of beneath. Now, underneath is not a combination of under and beneath. It's basically a more formal way of saying under. It is more emphatic. Okay, so if I say the ball rolled under the car, I could say the ball rolled underneath the car, but I wouldn't normally. People don't use underneath as often as they use under. Okay, now you can say underneath something is touching. So the puppy I have a puppy and he jumped onto my bed and where is he? I can't find him. Oh, he's underneath the blanket. Okay, he's under the blanket also works. It's a bit more formal. So now that we have the general idea of when to use these words, let's look at some sample sentences where you can mix them up. Okay, so we're going to look at a few sample sentences. Now, what I want you to see is that these words are sometimes interchangeable, and I could write many, many more samples, but they will all basically say the same thing. So, he has 5 layers on, under that jacket, beneath that jacket, underneath that jacket. So imagine you're living in Canada in the winter. You have a jacket. Under the jacket, you have a sweater. Under the sweater, you have a turtleneck. Under the turtleneck, you have a t-shirt. Under the t-shirt, you have a tank top. In Canada, you have to layer. You have to have many layers to keep all the heat inside. So he has 5 layers under that jacket because it's underneath, beneath, underneath. All of them mean basically the same thing. You can use any one you like. Beneath, underneath, more formal. This one a little bit more emphasis. The people in the apartment underneath means directly underneath because it's touching. Or the people in the apartment under us, because technically it's lower level. The people in the apartment below us, because we're on the same plane, we're on the same area in terms of space, vertical space. So the people in the apartment underneath us are so noisy. Any one of these will work. And again, the key is to remember that it's about the person who's listening to you or the person who's reading what you're writing. As long as they understand it, there's no such thing as a right or wrong answer. Did you deliver the message clearly? Yes or no? That's what you need to worry about. So if you used either one, in this case, you're okay. Tom is below Jane in the rankings. Now notice I only used below. Can I say under? Can I say beneath? No. In this case, rankings is basically a social ranking, or in terms of sports, it's a placement. So in this case, it's below because they're on the same list. They're on the same plane, okay? Where are we? You might find the book under that pile of laundry, beneath that pile of laundry, underneath that pile of laundry. So here's laundry all piled up, and under it, or beneath it because it's touching, or underneath it because it's touching, are the books. Go digging and you'll find them. So again, in most cases, you can interchange. If you want to be very, very precise and very, very specific, figure out which situation calls for which situations, which prepositions, and use those. So I hope this was all very clear, and I hope you understood it and liked this lesson. If you did, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. And if you have any questions, please go to engVid.com. There's a forum there. You can ask me all the questions you have, and I'll be happy to answer them. There's also a quiz on the engVid site where you can test your knowledge of these words. And yeah, come back again. See you soon, and we'll learn some more English together. Bye-bye.